Mory, now on his knees with blood trickling from his nose after Karin's earlier blow, struggled to stay conscious. His head pounded, and his vision blurred, but the will to survive pushed him forward. Saruwatari, his loyalty still intact, rushed to Mory's side, concern etched across his face. As Saruwatari reached out to help Mory stand, Mory's eyes flashed with a desperate, feral glint. Instead of gratitude, Mory's hand shot out, grabbing Saruwatari by the collar. With a sudden burst of strength, he hurled Saruwatari towards Karin, catching everyone off guard. Karin instinctively dodged, narrowly avoiding the collision. In that brief moment of chaos, Mory saw his chance. Without hesitation, he turned and bolted, running like a hunted animal. Miki watched him go, her expression unreadable, before deciding against chasing him. There was no need. Mory's breath came in ragged gasps as he sprinted down the hallway, his thoughts a frantic jumble of curses and fear. Just as he began to feel a flicker of hope, a shadow loomed before him. A zombie, unseen until now, staggered out from a side corridor. Before he could react, the zombie's teeth sank into his neck. Mory screamed in pain and fury, his hands flailing to push the zombie away. "Damn you," he spat, his voice hoarse with hatred. "You even brought a zombie here." But Miki, who had followed at a leisurely pace, only shook her head with a small smile. "I'm not a psychic. This wasn't part of the plan." Mory, despite the searing pain in his neck, managed to shove the zombie off and staggered to his feet. Blood poured from the wound, and his vision darkened at the edges. Saruwatari, still nearby, called out to him in desperation, but his voice sounded distant, drowned out by the roaring in Mory's ears. Miki's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. "Any last words?" Mory's response was a choked growl. "Damn you, I'll kill you." Karin, standing beside Miki, smirked down at the dying man. "You can try," she said coldly, watching as the zombie lunged at Mory again, this time knocking him to the ground. The creature's jaws closed around his flesh, tearing into him as he screamed in agony. It was a fitting end for a man like Mory, trapped by his own cowardice and treachery. As the saying goes, you reap what you sow. Miki watched with a detached satisfaction as Mory's cries grew weaker, then fell silent. Saruwatari, standing helplessly nearby, was frozen in shock. He had never imagined that their enemies could be so ruthless. Then, as the last of Mory's life ebbed away, Miki requested Karin to capture the zombie. Saruwatari heard this, shocked. His hope continued to shatter when he heard that Karin can easily handle those two zombies alone. Mory was just a human a moment ago, and why is she so calm capturing a zombie? Normal people would choose to avoid them. Saruwatari's mind reeled. The very idea was insanity. To Saruwatari, these two women weren't human. They were something else, something far more dangerous. They are fitting to be called monsters. Miki's attention shifted to Saruwatari. Her eyes bore into him with unsettling intensity. "So, what's it going to be? Will you come with us peacefully, or do you want to join him?" She gestured towards the now quiet zombie Mory. Faced with no other choice, Saruwatari felt his last shred of defiance crumble. His shoulders slumped as he nodded in surrender, the fight draining out of him. Back on the first floor, Sato sat sobbing as he greeted Karin, relief washing over him. "I thought we were done for," he choked out, tears streaming down his face. But Karin, always focused, pulled him out of his moment of vulnerability. "Get up, Sato," she commanded. "We have orders from Miki," a grin spreading across her face. "We need to gather the zombies inside." Sato blinked, still trying to process the situation. "Is now really the right time?" "Miki says it's the best time," Karin replied, her confidence unwavering. In the truck, a smartphone with Karin singing as the ringtone began to play. The zombies, drawn to the sound, slowly but steadily moved towards it. Karin watched from atop the truck, a picture of calm as the undead shuffled closer. When they are all inside, she will hop down to lock the door, sealing them in. Sato thought about it. The plan to take those zombies are easy, but why were they doing this now? What was Miki's plan? Meanwhile, on the second floor, Sudo's squad observed the bizarre scene below. They saw the zombies willingly entering the truck, and Karin herself sitting casually on top of the vehicle, waving up at them. The sight made Sudo's squad uneasy. Could they really control zombies? Suddenly, a phone rang, breaking the tense silence. It was Saruwatari. He instructed the squad to head to the office immediately, stating that the fight was over. Confused but obedient, they made their way to the office, where the rest of the group waited, uncertainty etched on every face. When Sudo's squad arrived, they asked Sudo what's going on. But then Saruwatari went inside, pushing a cart. The sight of it struck them as odd, until they saw what it held. Tied to the cart with thick ropes was Mory, now a zombie, his eyes dead. Horrified, they turned to Saruwatari, demanding answers. But before he could respond, Miki stepped forward, her demeanor as sweet and innocent as ever, which only added to their confusion. "Allow me to explain everything," Miki said, her voice soft and reassuring, though it did little to quell the rising dread among those gathered. The tension in the room was palpable as confusion filled the air. Miki, a mysterious presence who seemed to have appeared out of nowhere, was the focus of everyone's attention. Who was she? Why was she here? The thoughts raced through their minds, swirling with fear and uncertainty. Miki began to speak, but before she could explain, Sudo, his temper flaring, stormed toward her. "You just show up and offer to explain. Who the hell do you think you are?" he demanded, his voice thick with anger. Without a word, Miki moved. Her foot lashed out, striking Mory's head with a sickening thud. The force of the blow sent Mory's zombie form toppling off the cart, landing with a heavy thud on the ground. His dead eyes fixed on Sudo, who recoiled in horror, shivers of fear running down his spine. "Pay attention," Miki said calmly, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "Mory's a zombie now, and I'm the one who brought him here. You've lost the war, and you know what happens to the losers, right?" The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Sudo's bravado wavered. She then continued her explanation. "As she is saying, Mory is now a zombie, and the zombies outside is a present for them." This made the people inside nervous. What does she mean by that? While smiling like an angel, she said that they use zombies to fight. Her voice sweet, almost angelic, despite the grimness of her message. "You're lying," he spat, desperate to hold onto some semblance of control. But his own men betrayed him with their hesitant glances. They had seen it. Zombies entering the truck on their own. The only explanation was that Miki and her group could somehow control the undead. "Those zombies outside, they're our front line, and if you decide to rebel, well, you'll only add more to our ranks." Sudo's tough exterior began to crack. Fear gnawed at him, but he still couldn't fully accept it. But then, Saruwatari, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. His voice was low, filled with an emotion that shocked everyone. "Sudo, just stop," he pleaded, his once steely eyes now filled with something else, fear, and maybe even a touch of despair. The room fell into stunned silence. If Saruwatari, known for his unshakable resolve, was afraid, what did that say about Miki? The realization sent a ripple of terror through the group. Miki took this moment to press on. "We have several bases in the area, with a total of 1,000 members," she explained, her tone gentle yet commanding. "This base will join them. But don't worry, you won't have to collect zombies or lose any more people. Your only job is to protect this area and survive." The mention of peace and protection eased some of the tension in the room, though confusion still lingered. Saruwatari watched the crowd closely, noting how Miki's words were slowly winning them over. The opposite side of culling the weak. They are already well protected. If only they had focused, they can easily protect everyone. If they had rationed their food, if only they cared for their people more. If only. Those are only his if, but now it's all too late. Miki's plan was unfolding perfectly. She was playing them all, and they were falling right into her hands. She then turned to Saruwatari and continued, "Awasa and Saruwatari will now be in charge of this base. Awasa was the one who approached us, after all. He told us about the plan to reduce your numbers. He's already on our side." Miki then walked over to Saruwatari, her voice lowering as she addressed him. "You also came to us asking for help," she said, her words pointed. "Remember?" Saruwatari's face tightened. He had no choice but to nod. "Yes," he muttered. Sudo's eyes widened in shock. Saruwatari, the man he had seen as unbreakable, had already bent the knee to her. With that, Miki delivered the final blow to people's morale. "If anyone has a problem with this," she said, kicking Mory's zombified body towards them, "you'll end up like this." The threat was clear, and it silenced any remaining dissent. After delivering her ultimatum, Miki turned back to Saruwatari. "Take me to Awasa," she ordered. He obeyed without hesitation, leading her to the room where Awasa was held. Inside, Karin and Sato waited. Miki wasted no time. She told him that he will be in charge from now on. Awasa blinked, confused. Miki reassured him with a smile, though it was laced with a chilling undertone. "You have Saruwatari to help you. And don't worry, he's not a fool. He knows his safety is guaranteed as long as he stays loyal." Karin began untying Awasa, while Miki addressed Saruwatari. "You can handle Sudo, right?" Saruwatari hesitated, his mind racing. Killing Sudo would be the easiest solution, but Miki had different plans. "I'll figure something out," he replied, though his thoughts were far from clear. Once Awasa was freed, Miki declared that they're heading back now. They have much to do. And said that she'll contact Iwasa later, so be ready. Iwasa, still reeling from the rapid changes, stuttered out, I understand. As they prepared to leave, Sato turned to Iwasa, offering a final piece of advice. I know you're anxious, but trust me, if you follow Miki, everything will be fine. Iwasa looked at him, conflicted. He took this chance to ask, are you scared of her? Iwasa admitted that he's scared of Miki, although she helped them out, but seeing how she's controlling those zombies, she must have creeped Sato out too. Sato paused, thinking back on his own experiences. At first, I was, he admitted, but she's not as bad as you might think, he said while smiling brightly. But Sato's attempt at reassurance only deepened Iwasa and Saruwatari's unease. They both knew there was something much darker lurking beneath Miki's sweet demeanor, a power that terrified them both, even if they couldn't fully understand it. And as Miki and her group departed, leaving them with their new roles and responsibilities, the weight of their situation pressed down heavily on their shoulders. They were no longer in control. Miki had taken that from them, and with it, their last hopes of resistance.